It's 9 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday, March 20th, 2024. Last night the moon was almost full. It was super bright. We had a clear night last night. Right now it's 55 degrees, cloudy as you can tell. It's supposed to get up to 70. And then tomorrow it's supposed to rain cats and dogs. So let me lead the cattle into the pasture. Come on. Whoa! There's plenty of good grass here. It's a big area, like all the other areas I've been giving them so far. I think it's 220 feet in the north-south direction, and then like 180 feet, 170 feet in the east-west direction, if that's right. So it's a good amount of area. So the cattle are going to come in. I'm going to grab their minerals. I have in the mineral feeders. Get a lot of question about the minerals. I think it's just 12-12. It's just, you know, mineral for range cattle that are grazing. And then move the water as well. So I have a water hookup right here. And I'll just spread that hose out about 100 feet to make the distance they have to walk to get to water a little less. Jim Garish cited some studies that showed that cattle really don't like to walk more than 800 feet to water. So I'd like to keep the water within 800 feet of where they graze. So there's some cows getting water right now. I have Nutmeg out here. She's tied to a 100-foot rope to that tire there. She's one of the dogs that would come home. And as a pup we got her, and then we kept her at home until she was old enough to put in the pasture comfortably. And so their home is back where our house is, which is not where I need the dogs. So, and I think she's done being in heat. Hopefully she either she didn't get pregnant or she did, either one or the other. But hopefully it's Snowball will be the dad, not the neighbor's dog this time. So that's number 4 and probably number 44. Yeah, it's number 44, her calf. Number 4 was born in the summer of 2021. I tagged her ear and the tag fell out. Now she has a big divot in her ear. Wish I knew what I did wrong. So Snowball's with the cows, just hiding in the grass. Yeah, there's pretty good stands of grass here. This stand here is at least a foot tall, maybe a foot and a half. And there's lots of other things too. Lots of hairy vetch. I see clover. I see some other things too I can't identify. So something I wanted to talk about is proper way to do experiments. The point of an experiment is you want to see what effect something has, right? You want to see if I do X, will Y happen? For instance, a question I might have is if I feed my cows a particular type of mineral. Oh, here comes another calf. That's probably 43 Red's calf. I could tell because she's calling for the calf. So the question is, if I feed a particular type of mineral, will my calves all survive, right? That's what I want, is calves to survive. Obviously, I'll go to great lengths to ensure my calves survive. But the question isn't what I'm willing to do, the question is what actually works. And how do you figure out what actually works? And that's where the concept of the control comes in. The control is the idea that you want to know what happens if you do nothing, right? And you want to compare the results between the two. So in medical science, they use what's called a placebo. That's just a sugar pill. And they tell the patient that this is medicine, that, you know, it's supposed to do something. and they give them the real medicine too, or they give other people the real medicine. They don't tell the patients which is which. And they'll even do like double-blind studies where they won't tell the doctors which is which. So the doctors don't even know if they're getting a placebo or actual medicine. And then they carefully track the results and see if there is an effect due to the medicine, which is different than the sugar pill, right? So in physical sciences and physics and chemistry and stuff like that, where it's not really immoral to do experiments as long as nobody gets hurt, right? And so we can do a lot of control experiments. Yeah, she's calling her calf too. I don't know where her calf is. I have half of mine to leave the last row open just so the moms can go back and get their calves. The other thing I could do is go find the calf and kind of chase it towards mama. Anyway, so in the physical sciences, we can do lots of experiments and we can do lots of controls. We can do experiments with multiple variables at the same time, see if there's an effect between A and B and C, versus just A alone or B alone or C alone. Lots of stuff in agriculture we can do that way too. But when it comes to experimentation with the lives of animals, our conscience starts to kick in and say, hey, that's not right, So I could divide the cows into two groups and then feed one group minerals and the other group don't feed them the minerals, or feed them the minerals I've always been feeding them, and then see how many calves survive one versus the other. The issue with that though is if I'm convinced that the minerals actually save lives and I fail to administer those minerals, then what is that cow doing? I don't want you guys to go back. No, she's just getting her calf. I could probably chase her back in. Then basically I'm killing calves, right? And then it becomes morally questionable, which is a difficult thing to resolve. So what I've decided to do is not do any experiments like that. What I'm doing right now is I'm just trying to follow best practices of the ranchers in my area. Hey, number 10, get in the new area. Psst, psst. There you go. And the one big change that I've made is the rotational grazing. And the other change that I've made is I'm trying to do everything on the cheap, right? A lot of cattle ranchers in this area don't have a lot of money. And so they try to find solutions to their problems, or they just decide that it's not worth it, It's not worth it to buy the expensive minerals. It's not worth it to, take the animals to a vet, things like that. So that's kind of my philosophy right now. And then what I'll do is over time I'll introduce new practices and see if it has a positive effect, right? So I'll try to find things that other people say, are very successful and have positive effects, and I'll try to bring those things into my practices rather than doing experiments to see if there is an effect with two groups at the same time. I'll just kind of track how they do over time, right? I'm gonna go find that calf and bring it back. I figure that's probably the easiest. It's not the most scientific because one year could be different than another year. And if one year I try X, the next year I try Y, and I see that Y does better, well, it could just be that the second year was better than the first year, right? So I'm not going to read too much into the results. Like if one year 3 calves die and the next year 2 calves die, I'm not going to say, oh, it's 33% fewer deaths this year. There must be an effect. I'm going to say that there's high chance that it's just random chance that only 2 calves died in a particular year versus 3. So, and that's, what more can you do? If I get thousands of cows, then the sample size becomes large enough where it makes a lot of sense to start doing real experimentation. That's when you start bringing in what the British call boffins, scientist type people that carefully track and imagine new ways of messing up experiments. So, and then try to control for those variables. So like if I had, 10,000 acres, I could set aside 50 acres for one experiment and 50 acres for another experiment and see what effect it has. That kind of stuff. But real experimentation is expensive and difficult to do. So most of what I learn is just, it's not really knowledge. It's just kind of like sense, so intuitive sense that may or may not be right. But in all things, I'm going to favor the practices that take less work and the practices that take less money. I want to find a cheap and easy way to successfully raise cattle. It may not be the optimal way, but more people that can farm cattle cheaply and easily, the better off I think the world will be. So that's kind of my philosophy right now. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Listening to an old guy just talk about random things that he doesn't really know too much about. Have a great day. Take care and bye-bye.